everyone, welcome back to Frontline. Jay here with another review. Today I'm doing a TV time review of tonight's episode of The Flash. Well, it'll probably be tomorrow. Last night's episode by the time this gets loaded up, but still, it's the latest episode of Flash, which is Season 1, Episode 2. The title of this episode is The Fastest Man Alive. Well, Fastest Man Alive. Now, the story revolves around Barry actually becoming the Flash, sort of. He's not known as the Flash yet, but he's wearing the costume. He's going out solving minor crimes. In solving a minor crime, he accidentally runs over into a bank robbery with Iris, and he tries to use his powers, but in doing so, he passes out. And he goes to Star Labs. They find out that he's becoming hyperglycemic. He's not getting enough calories in his in his body, so he's like passing out. Now, in the comic books, when this was happening, it was before they invented the Speed Force. So I'm not sure they're gonna go with like maybe their explanation post Speed Force was that Barry thought his body should be doing this, so he like mentally, it was a mind over matter thing where he projected it into his head that he would need the calories, and it was all, a mind over matter thing, but their Speed Force was really there. So I don't know how they're going to go with that, if they're even going to use the Speed Force or not. Then you get him, going for the test with the crew. There's this guy named Danton Black who works for Stag Industries. We get to meet Stag. Those fans out there who know the comic books, Stag is responsible for the creation of Metamorpho. So it'll be cool and interesting to see we see Metamorpho down the line, especially because the Flash has all the metas. Then we get to see the character Danton Black. We find out that he's actually worked for Stag, blamed Stag for his wife's death, and he says that Stag stole his research. And he becomes, during the big explosion that gave Flash's powers, Danton got powers because he was doing experimental research on cloning, and he sort of done it on himself a little, like he injected himself with some of this stuff, and the explosion gave him the power to make clones of himself. So now he becomes Multiplicity, which is a name that Cisco gives him. After rejecting the name, everyone rejected the name Captain Clone. But Cisco seems like he's going to be the guy who's going to be naming all of Flash's villains and giving Flash names, So I think that's pretty cool that that's like his role. Other things we got was, there was a big moment where Caitlin says, about Ronnie Raymond was her boyfriend, and, we find out later on that Ronnie Raymond is going to be coming on the show along with Professor Stein. And a comic little twist on it is that in the comic books, Danton Black, who is also Multiplicity in the comic books, actually blamed Professor Stein for stealing his work, and he was responsible for the explosion that created Firestorm, and during that explosion is when he became Multiplicity. So it's kind of like a cool little connection that they connected all this stuff. It's got comic book connections, but it's totally unique to the Flash universe, which I love. As a big comic book buff, I was just like geeking out a little bit on the connection and how they're working it in. Great job. Yeah, they really did a research on the show. I really love that. But the main meat of the story for me, I think, was Barry and Joe's relationship, because Barry, we all know, is trying to prove his father didn't commit the murder of his mother, and he's trying to prove that with everything he has, and he's been trying to do that ever since his mother was killed when he was a little kid, and no one really believed him. They all said, "Oh, you know what? You're crazy, blah blah blah. Kids don't know anything. You shouldn't be doing this." And Barry always knew his father was innocent. So now he's older, and Joe has raised him, has always been that father figure in his life. And Joe, try to tell him, you can't be the Flash. You can't put yourself in that danger. And Barry's like, you're not my father. You're not. I don't care, you know, I'm trying to save my real father. I'll do what I want. You know, it's that coming of age thing. And it was a very powerful moment right there. But then it's mirrored later on when he apologized to Joe in a way. He was like, no, you're not my father, but you are the man who kept me, who fed me, who clothed me, who was there for everything. So it was like a really nice, touching moment that they had at near the end. And Joe said, you know, he's going to help Barry prove that his father is innocent, which I really love that they actually connected that part too. And I was the person who's against Iris's father being a good guy, but I'm really happy that he is because, yeah, I liked the Randolph. You know, I liked him when he was a bad guy in the comic books in the Premium 52, but I kind of like Joe. Like, Joe West is a really great guy, and I like that. I'm interested to see how they bring Wally in, if they bring Wally in, because there's been no mention of Wally so far, and no mention of his father or anything, so I'm interested in all that. But, another thing I want to touch on, and was a great moment for me, is Iris West. Iris is on the scent of the Flash. She has that killer instinct that she has had in the comic books. She sees a story there and she's going to go after it, and I love that. It reminds me of how Iris was in comic books. Now, a lot of people always say, oh, that's like Lois Lane. She is very much like Lois Lane, and that's one of the reasons why I love her. She's that strong-willed, bull-headed woman who just is just awesome and dynamic to see in the comic book, and now bringing that to the screen, I just love it, and I love that now I'm kind of leaning towards that they can actually do a little romance there with Barry, because I was like, oh, they're brother and sister sort of, it's gonna be weird. But now I'm kind of thinking they could with the Flash in there, you know, she's dating the Flash, and the Flash is, you know, it's gonna be a twist on the whole Superman, Lois Lane, Clark Kent thing with the Barry Allen. So I'm really looking forward to how they play that out. I just love this episode. I'm giving it 4.5 stars. I'm saying watch it. If you're a fan of the comic books or something in there for you, you're a fan of the of this show from the first episode, you're something in there for you. If you're a fan of great storytelling, there's something in there for you. So there's something in there for everyone, and especially for me, it was that father-son moment between Joe and Barry, and then you get the flashbacks, which I loved also, because that was a big part of like the stories that in the Flash. You get to see the flashbacks of Barry with his father. I really loved that. So 4.5 stars. I recommend watching it. Well, those are my thoughts. Now I want to know what yours are in the comments below. Also, like this video, subscribe to Comic Frontline, check out and subscribe to my channel, The Comic Book Theater. Check out Comic Frontline, the site, for all the latest previews, reviews, news, and interviews. For even more news on all things related to comics, comicrelated.com is your source for all your comic book needs with daily updates. And don't forget to like and follow me and Comic Frontline on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. I'll include all these links in the description below. Until then, I'll catch you in the next review.